I love it when I get an opportunity to talk to someone who's been following one rental at a time, aka ORAT, for a year or two. We're going to welcome Austin Kahn to the show. We're going to talk about financial peace versus financial gain. We're going to talk about buying homes, buying rentals for cash. We're going to talk about being a professional basketball player and traveling the world. We got so much to unpack.
Awesome.
Aston, thank you very much for being here, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you for having me and taking your time out of your day to have me as well. Thank you.
Oh, of course, man. I appreciate you, reaching out saying, hey, you took your shot. I'm like, hey, if you can make 8 o'clock Sunday
Yeah.
work, let's go.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
kudos
Thank
to
you.
you. Why don't you introduce who you are to the audience? Right? Who are you? Who are you pre one rental at a time? What was kind of your
Okay.
story? And we'll get into that.
Awesome, man. Pre-rental one at a time. Ashton Khan was a kid growing up in Toronto, Canada, fighting for his dream to get a scholarship in the NCAA for basketball, like you said. I was able to do that. So I've always been someone that, if I put my mind to it, I'll work really hard and try my best to
Where did you
obtain that
play?
that
Where'd you
goal.
play?
I played at a Division 1 called Canisius College. It's in Buffalo, New York.
Nice.
It's actually where I met my wife. So it's probably one of the biggest blessings of my life to be able to go there. And then yeah, fast forward 4 or 5 years later, I went to another school called Tiffin University for basketball. I transferred. Then I ended up playing professional for about 6 or 7 years in France, Portugal, England, and China was my last 2 year stint, which was amazing.
Nice. Nice. Very, very cool. All right. So you travel your dream, you work really hard, you get 6 years as a pro.
Yes,
You
sir.
then exit, right? Father time is undefeated. It happens to all professional athletes eventually.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
but where do you go? When was your last year? And then what happened post professional? Because again, we hear about it. We read a lot about
Mhm,
professional athletes who,
mhm,
kind of go bankrupt very quickly
Yeah,
after
no,
exiting. So
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. One fortunate thing that I think I learned just watching my parents grow up and struggling with finances and making ends meet at times. One thing I did is in 2015 is when I became a professional athlete, and I always wrote down what I bought and what I made. So,
oh, a
for example,
budget. Nice.
oh yeah,
Tracking.
and I still do that. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing that for 10 years now. So in 2015, even if I would buy groceries from Aldi, that was the grocery store called in England, I would write down how much I spent on the groceries and how much was coming in, and I would know how much I saved. And I have that data for the last 10 years. But to fast forward to your question, in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was like, my basketball career kind of came to a hard stop. And I'm sure a lot of people's careers came to a hard stop. Now, I could have transitioned back and go back to China. There was about a 7 month gap, but instead I was in Malaysia and I decided to focus on maybe starting a business and pivoting so I can be able to be with my wife more full time because she's a physician in the US.
Mm.
So she wasn't able to travel with me to the different countries I was playing in. So business took off. I started in my dad's basement in Canada. After I brainstormed in Malaysia, I went back to Canada and I had some ideas. Started it off in my dad's basement. My dad was filming me. My little brother was filming me as I was making these videos about life skills and impacting. I call it impacting the world. And yeah, after a few months, started making some revenue, and I told my wife, "Hey, maybe I don't have to go back. Maybe I can replace the revenue I was making playing professionally, or maybe even more." And
Mm.
that's kind of how it started.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Forgive me for asking. If you don't want to answer, it's totally cool, but I'm going to ask anyway. We hear a lot about NBA athletes making multiple seven figures, signing $100 million contracts. I'm guessing it's fair to say that that doesn't happen when you're playing in China or France or whatever. I'm
Yeah,
guessing
correct. I mean,
very
yes, yeah,
different.
yeah, it's very different. Obviously, like the NBA contracts are way more money. Now, don't get me wrong, you can be playing in China or Europe at some of the top levels and make a ton of money. All right. But I also say that, depending on the environment you're in when you grow up, that's kind of like what you compare yourself to. So I was at a lower level in Europe when I first started as a rookie, where
Mhm.
if I'm being totally transparent, I told myself, listen, if I can get $5,000 a month, I would sign a 4 year deal right now. Because and
Ah,
I could have been like a year out of college, and my mind was thinking so small,
mm,
and I can remember that like it was yesterday. But yes, I wasn't at the level where you're making multi millions per year.
yeah. Yeah, no, I just wanted people to realize sometimes people hear a professional athlete and they're their minds go, to $100 million
Right.
contracts and all of that.
Right.
The other thing that I love
Absolutely.
about your story, and you started a decade ago, is you were tracking what's coming in and what's going out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Uh, and the number that's left over in my mind is the most important number that nobody talks about. And in my
It's the
world, I
biggest
call
number.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the only number that matters. I don't care what your income is. I work in the Silicon Valley. I know people that make seven figures and they
Right.
couldn't find 10 grand if their life depended on it. I mean, that is sad,
It is.
right? It's
I
sad.
agree. Yep.
But if you're tracking income, outgo, aka expenses, and what's left over is disposable income, that's the greatest unlock ever. If you
Ever.
can, if you
Ever.
could just focus on disposable income, and more importantly, growing disposable income,
Right.
grow income, lower expenses, do both. There's only three options, folks. It's not that complicated. You can do some amazing things.
I
All
agree.
right. So you go there, the pandemic disrupts your life as it does
Yep.
everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You brainstorm, you head home, you want to spend more time with your wife. Good idea.
Yes.
Uh, Tell me about this thing that you spark in your dad's basement. Your brother's filming you. What are we
Right.
doing here?
Yeah. So, I was in Malaysia and I just wanted to get away and be able to focus because I'm like, where's my career going? Basketball is hard stop. My contract, got canceled. So I'm thinking, okay, I've always liked impacting people. That's kind of my personality. So what can I do? So one thing I love impacting students. So I'm like, let me bridge the gap between some of the things that are not taught in school, but are needed in real life. One thing is building your confidence and overcoming your fears. One thing is financial education and literacy and how to manage your money, not only manage your money, but grow your money and use money as a tool instead of, being a consumer, which we're all kind of, brainwashed to be
Oh
to
yeah,
a
for
certain
sure.
degree.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I started creating these courses that would help young students around the world. And I said, if I do this online, I can reach a wider range of students. This morning, I actually met with a student from Barbados. So I created these courses and I launched them, and boom, I've to date, I've probably met with over 10,000 families worldwide that have taken my courses, taken my mentorship, and done many different, things with me. And I've been able to expand on that, create merch. I built a gym in China when I was out there, so I have like a basketball academy out there that still runs today.
Nice.
And I just started to, it just started, it was a snowball effect. And then once
Right.
once I got the money out, I want to tell you something, Mike. So I save up a bunch of money, right? If I'm being transparent, I save up my first 100,000, right? So I'm like, I've made it. I got my first 100,000. Mom, dad, like life is gonna be different. Like it's
Yeah.
finally. I'm like, okay, now what can I do with it? And I quickly realized I can't do much. So I went through this. Yeah, I went through this 48 hours of frustration,
Yeah.
anger, because I know how much effort it took me to save that first 100,000. And I was very frustrated. Like, is this all I can do with this? That's it.
Mm.
I can't do anything else. And I said, you know what? Instead of me spending this 100,000, I'm going to keep this 100,000, but I'm going to keep it where this 100,000 turns to 200,000 or 300,000, and I'm going to make this 100,000 grow. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to find out by doing research. And shortly after that, I came across your content.
That is so amazing because again, the whole secret to getting wealthy, it's three freaking steps.
Mm-hmm.
Step one, track, grow disposable income. Right?
Yes.
If you do that, disposable income grows. You eventually get to 100 grand or 10 grand or
Mm-hmm.
whatever your number is. People watching this, it's just
Yes.
math. It happens
It's just math.
by accident. But then step two is you need to become elite at something, right? Become an
Mm-hmm.
elite investor, and we're going to get into your investing part of this next. But
Okay.
then step three is do it for a decade.
Yes.
That's it. That's how you become
That's it.
wealthy. Just
Mm-hmm.
stop the madness. It's no harder than that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's turn to your investing story. You find me about a year and a half ago, something
Yep.
clicks,
Yep.
and you like this one rental at a time thing. You're part of the community,
Yeah.
all that good
Yes.
stuff. You also,
Love it. Love it.
find Dion, the lazy landlord, which
Yeah.
rubs
Love
off on
him.
you. Love Dion.
Yes.
I think he's figured it out. He's such a good teacher too. But you decide to buy rentals cash,
Yes.
no leverage. So
Yeah, no
so talk
leverage.
about that. Why is that? Why is buying rentals cash, a la Dave Ramsey, the right thing for
Yeah,
you?
yeah. When it comes to investing, it's very personal, and you have to know kind of what you want and what your goals are, right? It's kind of like what Dion says,
Yes.
like you know your goals and what you say as well, and then you reverse engineer from there. So kind of like what Dion is, I'm not trying to necessarily have 100 or 200 doors. I want the least amount of units as possible with the highest cash flow. And where
Right.
the interest rates were a couple of years ago, and even today, as you know, they're really high, and there's no real cash flow in the game right now. So what I do is I sought out new communities here in Florida. I have my buy box, as you talk about. I have my buy box. I look at it every single day, like I'm obsessed. And I
Nice.
go to these, I go to these new communities with builders, which obviously they give you the warranty and whatnot. And I'm like the first to buy in the communities, so I get that appreciation going up.
So you're buying phase one,
I'm buying in
trying
phase
trying to.
one,
Okay. All
trying
right.
to buy in the earliest phases possible. And what I do is, yes, like you said, I buy cash. I buy 3 2s or 4 2s, right?
Nice.
1,600 to maybe 2,000 square feet.
Makes sense.
It, yep, in and around there. And yeah, I'll go in and buy it cash. And what I do is I use that rental income to keep reinvesting into more
The
properties. So that
snowball. This is again, give
the
Dion credit
snowball,
where credit is due. It's the income
the
snowball. I
snowball.
mean, Dion tells the story, guys. It took him 2 years to dig out of a
Hmm.
hole. Because once he made
Yep.
up his mind, he wasn't ready. It took 2 years to get out. Then he bought one. It took
Hmm.
another 2 years to get the second one. And I think it was like 18 months for the third. It's just because this snowball starts going. So I always love Ashton to hear about the first deal. So let's talk about this first. What was the first property? What year? And tell us some
Okay.
details.
Great question. So let me go back. The first thing was get out of debt. Now, luckily, I had a scholarship for university and my master's, so I didn't have any debt. But my wife is a physician,
Oh,
so yeah. So in the
she had
U.S., I'm
some.
actually originally from Canada. Oh yeah, she had a lot. You know, she had 6 figures. Let's just say six
Oh,
figures.
nice.
I'm watching content, and I'm reading, and this is about 5 6 years ago. I'm reading. I'm trying to figure out, what do we do? What do we do? And there was a moment where I was like, wait, I think we need to get out of debt. And I think
Yeah,
we need to do it as fast as possible.
I am.
Yeah. So I quickly go to the store. I get this whiteboard, and I write down months. And beside every month, I write down how much we're going to be putting towards this student loan. And my wife is like, wow, we're going to be putting this much towards student. I'm like, yeah, we're going to go right at it, and we're going to knock this out. We're going to be done in about 2 years. So we got rid of that, right? Which is a few hundred K. So we got rid of that. Now we're ready to go, because now we
Mhm.
have more discretionary income, right? So
Yes.
now we have more discretionary income. And I said, how can we keep more discretionary income? Let's live below our means. Let's keep the bills as low as possible, even though we can afford a lot more. Let's share a car. Let's do what we got, so we can have a lot of discretionary income, so we can deploy it. So the first deal was actually in Hawaii. I'm on Zillow. I'm on my couch on Zillow, and I'm looking, and I see a
What year?
property in
Sorry, just so I can get timing. What year?
2020, 2020.
Okay, 2020. All right. Why? Okay.
Yeah. So I see Hawaii, and I said, okay, property looks like it can be revamped. Now, listen, I never flipped a property in my life. Okay. So I have no clue what I'm doing,
And
but I'm
you're
like,
in Florida right now, just so I remember the story. You're in
I'm in Florida
Florida.
right now, but in 2020, I was in New York because my wife's from New
Okay,
York.
got it. So
But
you're in New York. You see a property in
yes,
Florida, Hawaii. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, see a property in Hawaii and Zillow, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to throw an offer that's lower than what the previous person bought it for, so I can have
Ah,
built-in equity. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Like, let me just do a low ball offer. I have nothing to lose, right?
I
And
like it.
I I throw like maybe 50,000 under, and they met me with like halfway with 25,000 under. And I'm like, really? Let's go. Let's do it. So it was in a great location on Waikiki. And if anybody knows Honolulu and Waikiki, it's like the hot spot. And my wife was like, "Are we doing this?" And I'm like, "I guess so." I'm gonna put, I just put some money down. I didn't do this one, wasn't cash. I put the 20% down. I'm like, let's go out there. My wife picked all the different things to upgrade it. And I'm like, well, while we're here, let's just live in it for a bit.
Yeah.
Let's just enjoy Hawaii. Yeah, why not? So we lived in it for a bit, and then we sold it. And I was on a flight to Dubai, and the transaction came through to my bank account while I was on the flight in the air. And I'm like,
Ah,
wow, I just made money on a flip. This is amazing, right? I can't believe I made money. But I remembered when I got my first 100,000, when I saved my first 100,000 a few years previous to that, I remembered, hey, I can't spend it. I got to make this money grow more. I can do more with this, right? So that's when that was the first deal, was a flip in Hawaii.
Okay. All right. So again, you always had the mindset you weren't going to splurge. It was always going to keep rolling this stuff
Correct.
forward. All right. So
Correct.
you go from doing a flip in Hawaii, making some money in 2020, good timing. When do you start the buy and
Yes.
hold kind of new build
Yeah.
acquisition?
Yep.
When does that happen?
So we get our primary first.
Okay.
And we get our primary home
With or
first
without debt?
with debt. With debt. This
Okay.
one we do with debt because we locked in like such a low interest rate. I'm like, I know Dave Ramsey wouldn't be super excited, but hey, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. You got something with a 2 or 3 on it. I think you're doing okay.
Exactly. So I'm like, hey, wife, I think we're doing okay. We don't really have to cash this one. We're doing okay. It's a low interest rate. Locked in for 30 years. We live in below our means. No big deal.
We're good. Yeah.
So yeah, we're good. So we do that. So now I'm like, all right, I love my neighborhood, and there's a house in my neighborhood, and someone fell out of contract, and they reduced the price by 50K, and it was brand new.
Ooh.
I'm like, hey, let me jump on that. Boom. So I get that one. That's when I do the first cash deal. Now I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm getting a rental.
So
cash,
what are the price points? I have no idea what Florida was. And this is what,
okay, yeah,
2021 now?
yeah. No, that was 2022, like end of 2022.
Okay.
This is about what
And
was
it's
the
a
price of the
house or a
first
condo?
rental?
Yeah.
No, it's a house. Yeah, now
Okay.
I'm only doing single families. I just do single
Okay.
families.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So the price, you want to know the price of the first
Yeah, just
rental?
curious. Yeah, just
Yeah,
curious.
349, 990.
All right, so call it 350. All right, and then so
Yeah.
you buy it cash. I
Mhm.
have no idea what Florida rents are. What were the rents when the tenant moved in?
25, 2450, but I use Dion's, tactics, and now
Binder, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, exact binder, and it's up a little bit now.
All right, so let's call it 2500. Okay, and again, you have no
That's
debt
yeah,
on this one.
correct.
All right, so very, very cool. All right, so you deploy all that capital, you have all this money in your account. No, you don't, but now you have an asset. Where do you go from there? What you just start the whole keep saving dry powder and do it again?
Yeah. So what we do is, yeah, saving the dry powder, and I'm already on the look. I'm already on the lookout,
Yeah.
right? I'm already hunting. Like every day I'm on Zillow, or every day I'm in my car, and I'm looking, and I'm like, what else can we do? Is there another one of these we can do? And like I said earlier, because the interest rates were so high, I was like, let me just park it there,
Yeah.
right? And it's and if I ever need it or want it because maybe something crashes in the future, I can always
Yeah.
just do a cash out refi and get some money back. So it wasn't a big deal when I thought about it like that. What was the big, not a big deal, but it was like, how do I find the tenant?
Mm.
How do I vet the tenant? How do I run the credit score check? So I had to learn all that. So I manage my own properties, and I learned how to
Self-management. Yeah,
I
essentially.
self manage. Yeah, I self manage, and I learned how to vet the tenant, run the credit score, and do all the things you need to do to make sure you get a good tenant.
Very cool.
Hired someone to take the pictures, and so I'm learning as I go. I'm learning as I go, right? Because like I said, I was playing professional basketball for many years with not a lot of knowledge. So I'm doing a lot of reading, watching all your content. I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
Mike Zuber is like a pro in this. Let me listen to
Hmm.
some people that have the experience, that have been doing it for a couple of decades, right? So then yes, I find another community. It's dirt, like nothing there. And they're
Ah,
offering like 3 lots. It's a very low entry at the time. Now it's like, for if you want to buy the 4.2 that I bought, it's probably like 35,000. Price point went up already.
wow.
And the lots are 20,000. So I'm probably up 55,000 in equity.
Nice.
So I go and I get that one early 2023.
Okay.
And yeah, so I have that one's built now, and someone's been living in there. So then I do that one, and I'm like, okay, this is great. And then now, so that was the second one. And then and then I do the same thing: cash flow, reinvest, cash flow,
Hmm.
reinvest. And we live below our means. We were sharing a car for a year, or for years. For years, we are sharing a car. I just got my car. I'm like, finally, let me just get a car, you know. So, and I got the car I wanted too, because I waited. So I was able to get the new Tesla Model X, the
Oh,
SUV.
nice. Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So because I was patient,
Yeah.
and I always was like, let your income, your passive income, passive. I say passive, with a
Yeah.
grain of salt. It's never passive.
Yeah.
Pay for
Semi-passive.
your semi passive. Pay for your
Your
expenses.
toys. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then from there we went international. for an investment, and then we're gonna come back and do another one in Florida.
Oh, I'm curious. International. What country? Where'd you go?
United Arab Emirates in Dubai.
Oh, very. So I have no idea how you buy it. Does Dubai have loans, or do you have to buy cash in Dubai?
You don't have to buy cash. The loans are a lot. Obviously in the U.S. you can leverage 5% down, 10% down, 20% down, whatever. When you're buying new construction over there, they usually want it 60 to 90% down, depending on your developer.
Oh,
So it's a
wow.
lot less
It's a big
leverage.
lift. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big lift. Yeah, but that fits my mold, so I'm okay
Yeah,
with
of course. You're good, right?
that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm like Dion. You know how he has about 16, 17 units. Like, yeah, I just need,
Yeah.
if I 5 to 8 units and I own them all outright, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I think that's magical. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of tying Dave Ramsey and Dion together.
Yes.
Also, Coach
Yes.
Carson, right? I think one of the beauties about Coach Carson that he dropped in Vegas was what is enough, right?
Exactly.
Like all these
Exactly.
people going, I need 20, 50, 100. No, you don't. That's
You
all
don't.
ego talking. Trust me, somebody having a large portfolio and still growing, they're working their ass off. There's nothing passive about that, right?
Yes.
So if you just know your numbers, understand the story, like disposable income, discretionary, whatever you want to call it, it's just so magical there. I
Yeah.
love what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll say something like, I always tell people, like when I'm on calls with people, I'm like, if you're hungry and you eat, your body's going to tell you you're full because it's physical. Or if you're thirsty and you drink water, your body's going to say, hey, that's enough water. I'm not thirsty anymore. But when it comes to making money, because it's psychological, you can make 1 million in a year, and next year you want to make two. Then you want to make four. There's never a time where you're like, I'm satisfied or I'm full. And it doesn't mean to be complacent and not continue to grow or continue to work. But there's a point where I'm like, once I get this, I'm content. I don't need to eat anymore. Am I still gonna do things to continue to grow? Yes, but but I am satisfied on where I am, and everything's covered. The bases are covered. Everything is okay. So you
Yeah.
have to have that enough mentality. But I believe, don't let that enough make you lazy though.
Yeah. So
So there's a balance there.
I'm curious when you look into the future, are you just always thinking about the next deal? Do you have like, hey, by 2030, I want to have eight? I mean, how do you kind of operate? Do you operate kind of in a next deal mindset, or do you have big
Yeah,
goals, or maybe both?
yeah, kind of both. I'm like, listen, I'm 33. You know, a couple years ago, we've been able to cross over the threshold of um, being by definition a millionaire. Even though I thought it was going to be way better, but then I thought the feeling was going to be a little bit better than it was. But anyway, that's another story. It's still a good feeling. But I think one rental a year
I
is
like
is
that.
totally fine with me. Because by the time I'm 37, 38, that's another 4 or 5, and I
Right.
think that's totally fine. Kind of a slow grind, not trying to hit anything out the park, just a bunch of ground
Yeah,
balls,
I
and
like it.
slow grind it. And it takes, like you said, the first 5 years were tough. It did suck. Because saving all that capital and working and trying to do the heavy lifting. Now it's a lot easier because
Yeah. Proof of
there's different
concept is
sources of
there.
income.
Yeah.
Yeah, proof
Yeah.
of concept is there, and there's different sources of income helping you do the heavy lift.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, you talked about providing financial education and helping kids. I'd be remiss if we
Yeah.
don't talk about that a little bit. It's something I'm excited about as well, as getting the next generation not to make the same mistakes we've all made for generations.
Hmm.
I'm curious when you're helping people. Actually, I'm curious about this. You said you've helped people around the world. Um,
Yes.
do the money problems that we're very familiar with in the States, right? Living above your means and all of those, is it very much a US thing, or is consumerism rampant around the world? I really have no idea.
Yeah, consumerism is rampant around the world, but there are places that I've been to where things are a lot different. They're more family oriented. They're more like, we have enough. It's not like wake up and go and wake up and work. Here's more like of a capitalism mindset.
Mm.
And that's kind of because of my experience living all over the world. I've been able to take different perspectives from everywhere and kind of create my own. And that's kind of what I've been doing. The same thing with my education, my self education is like taking some of your perspective and some of the others and kind of creating my own. I'm like, I really like what that. Okay, Dion's doing that. That's great. Coach Carson, thank you.
Yeah.
Stephens, there's a whole bunch of them out there. And I'm like, I just take little bits and I'm like, all right, what suits Ashton though the best for my wife and I?
I love that. I love that, Ashton. Well, do me a favor. If somebody want to reach out, learn more about you, where do we send them?
Yeah, so you can send them to I have Instagram, Ashton Khan 15. And then I have my website as well, lifecoachacon.com. So you can always reach out to me on my website as well.
I love it.
And yeah, we can get in touch.
Very, very cool. I saw you when you moved over there. You had a barbell behind you. What is on there? Like 185 or something? You do some cleans or deadlifts or something?
Yeah, we try to stay in shape. This is actually just like a virtual kind of background
Oh,
though,
it's
like
a
a wall.
virtual. Ah, you tricked
Looks
me.
real though. I tricked
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Ah,
But I do still work out every
there
day.
you go. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for being a follower. I appreciate you, man. Good luck.
Thank you, Mike. All right. Thank
Mhm.
you.